Carlos Ramirez, owner of NVS Audio in Roselle, New Jersey. So Leroy brought us his Street Glide up from Maryland. He had a shop do a install, shop that was close to him. He just wasn't happy with the setup, so he brought it up so we could look it over and see what we could do to make it sound right. While we had the bike, he had us install some Dakota digital gauges to update the look of the bike. So we looked at the bike and pulled the fairing and everything seemed okay, just like on Sean's bike. But once we dug into it further, we realized that it was going to be a complete teardown. So when I looked in the saddlebags, it looked like it was a set of SPL bagger rings or Nagy center mount rings because they had nice, neat sound deadener around the ring. So some shops do that to seal off the edge of the ring. So I thought that under the sound deadener was a proper ring. Once we start pulling, the only thing I didn't understand is why they put the woofer in the dead middle of the bag. One of the reasons we use 8-inch drivers is we mount the 8-inch driver to the back of the bag, back here, and then that gives you 2/3 of your bag space since the driver's all the way to the back. Putting the driver in the middle, you end up, if you need a large item to put in the bag that would take up to like a helmet, putting the driver in the middle doesn't give you enough bag space because you end up with 1/3 in front of the woofer and 1/3 behind the woofer instead of 2/3 in front of the woofer. So putting the 8 in the middle doesn't make sense to us. The 10-inch, we have no choice when we do a 10, and the 10s obviously sound better, but they take up your entire bag. So they did an 8-inch and took up his entire bag. So we were gonna move the 8 to the back. Once we took it apart, we realized that not only did they not use the proper ring, but they drilled a whole bunch of holes. So the speaker was too close to the edge of the saddlebag, the cone. They used Ground Zero yellow basket mid-bass drivers, so we didn't replace them. They're excellent mid-bass drivers. We reused them, but the mid-bass drivers slap in the side of the bag since they did the whole bunch of little holes and didn't space it properly. So we went ahead and fiberglassed the bag closed, then recut the hole in the back of the bag to give him back his bag space and move the woofers to the proper location. We fabricated rings out of plastic, so 100% weatherproof. We used weatherproof mesh and then moved the speakers to the back of the bag. So we moved to the front of the bike where we found more mistakes. So as soon as we pulled the fairing, the amps were installed neatly. It was sound digital amps that we would have used anyway. So it was an 800 for the woofers and an 800 for the mids. We noticed there was only a power wire at the battery, no ground. They grounded the amplifiers in the fairing. So they didn't run the battery wire to the fairing and then ground it. They literally just screwed it down to the metal in the fairing. So we stripped all the wiring out, do 2 runs of oxygen-free copper 8-gauge wire, and they installed a Metra car DSP in the bike instead of the Metra Harley Davidson waterproof DSP. So since they installed the car DSP, they cut all his factory radio harnesses. So we pulled the DSP out, we repaired all the wiring, we made all the harnesses back to factory, then we installed our NVS Audio T harness, HKI Mini DSP, which was a better fit, and he had the factory GTS radio, so we flashed it, activated CarPlay, and flattened the factory EQ. So after rewiring the bike, he had 7x10 Ground Zero yellow basket 6x9s in the Avant Black lid kit. I like Avant Black products. I like their 8-inch lid. I like their lowers. I like their tour pack. I do not like their 6x9 lids. Their 6x9 lids have a 5x7 opening on the top and a 6x9 adapter plate. So using the 6x9 adapter plate, the mounting tabs actually snap off and allow water to come into the bags, and that's exactly what happened on this one. So we completely removed the lids, and since the bike was black, we didn't have to paint or color match. We went with a set of Kicker 6x9 lids, which have a reinforcement bar on the bottom. The 7x10s do not fit in these lids, so we went with a set of Hertz 690 Neos. So now we have new lids, replaced the 7x10s with 6x9s, so the bike ended up having GTS radio flashed, HKI Mini DSP, Sound Digital 800.1, Sound Digital 800.4. In the fairing, we left the Diamond Audios in the fairing pod. He had the MP654s that sounded excellent. There was nothing wrong with them. We upgraded the 6x9s to the Hertz 690 Neos, and we reused his yellow basket 8s in the back. Check out the build. Okay, he's using all good equipment, so we're gonna keep it. I'm gonna try and keep the DSP. Let's make sure it cooperates with me. We're just gonna clean up the wiring. We're gonna remove the T-taps. We're gonna remove the butt connectors, and we're gonna upgrade the wire to oxygen-free copper. I don't know why they cut the factory harness, because they make a plug and play for this DSP, but we're gonna repair that and make it right. Carlos Ramirez, owner of NVS Audio in Roselle, New Jersey. So we got this road glide in for install rescue, and there's certain product I like and certain lids that I like. We're a big fan of the cutting kit. The Avant Black makes really good product, but I don't like their speaker lids, and this is why. The Avant Black speaker lids, and I've said it before, they're set up for 5x7s, then they give you an adapter to install 6x9s. Then people go with the biggest, baddest 6x9. One of the reasons we like using the Hertz 690 Neo is it's a Neo magnet, so it's very little weight on the lid. The Diamond Audio Neo, same thing, very little weight on the lid. If you go something ferrite magnet like the Euphoria Expert, the Diamond Audio MS Coax Sub, and in this case, the 7x10 Ground Zero, the speaker weighs a lot. So then, being that it's a 5x7 to 6x9 adapter, it's held onto the lid through three little studs, and those studs tend to snap off. Check out what I'm talking about. These lids are very popular. You can buy them color matched, but you see how far down the speaker sits? That's one issue I have with these lids. So the bottom of the 6x9 ends up somewhere around here, so you lose a ton of bag space, where if you do a cutting kit, the woofer comes all the way up. But there's other companies that make lids that I like Kicker makes a really good set of lids. Hog Tunes makes a good set of lids. The reason it's not that Avant Black's not a good product. We like using their lowers. We like using their tour pack, but we do not like these speaker lids, and this is why. So you end up with a giant adapter. Look at all that space. Then you can see light through there, so water's definitely gonna get in. So now you have the post, giant gap, giant adapter. It's funneling a 6x9 to a 5x7 hole. And this speaker weighs so much that it's putting a lot of stress on the lid. And look what happened on the other side. The adapter actually snapped the stud completely off. See that? And the speaker's gonna fall in the bag. You can tell by the wear marks that it's been bouncing around for a while. Now we have to try and repair this, and if we can't, we're gonna have to replace the lid. So it's this I've said it before, and I do not recommend these lids. They do it because instead of letting the grill extend out to here, it's a nice cleaner look with just a mesh on top, but there's no sense of having a good look if it's just gonna fail. That's completely destroyed. See where it completely ripped? And this is a common problem, and happens all the time. Another thing I don't understand is why they put the woofer in the middle. So they make a front mount 8-inch kit, a center mount, and a rear mount. We do a rear mount, that way you get to keep 2/3 of your bag space. We only put the woofer in the middle, and we do a 10-inch. So with the woofer in the center, you lose basically a bunch of space in the bag, and you can only use 1/3 of the bag space. The way we do it, woofer goes in the back, and then you have 2/3 of your bag space. So putting the woofer in the middle third just doesn't make sense to me, because then you end up with 1/3 storage, 1/3 storage. It makes more sense to me to put the woofer in the back, and then you have 2/3 storage in the front. But that is not the big deal. That is not the huge problem. The huge problem is we have 0 mid-bass coming out of these excellent mid-bass drivers, and this is why. They drilled a whole bunch of little holes, and as you can see right there, when the woofer is at its maximum excursion, it's hitting the side of the bag. So they tuned it really high, which robbed them of all his mid-bass, to keep the 8 from slapping on the side of the bag. Does make sense. Oh, look at that, we got some loose screws. But we're gonna make it right. Okay, when I looked at this from the top, I assumed that they used a Nagy ring or an SPL bagger ring, but after Chris took it apart, he brought it to my attention that they did not. They just stacked speaker spacer rings on top of each other and screwed it into the side of the bag. That is terrible. They glued the ring on with sound deadening material. Well, that's a first. I've never seen that done before. Okay, since there was nothing we could do with this train wreck, we completely removed it and decided to repair the bags with fiberglass. So we did 5 layers of fiberglass mat to seal the hole back up. And now we're gonna cut the new woofer hole in the back of the bag to give the client all his bag space back. Most of the time, clients choose to do 8s over 10s just to gain more bag space. So the 8 goes in the back, you get to keep 2/3 of the bag. Putting an 8 in the center of the bag really doesn't make sense, because now the 8 is all in the middle, so then you end up with a 1/3 here and a 1/3 here instead of 2/3 in the front. So the bags, we're just waiting for the fiberglass to dry. Once the bag's nice and solid and repaired, we're gonna go ahead and cut the hole in the back and put this thing back together. They make a Harley DSP. This is a Metro DSP. They make a Harley DSP. They use the universal one on this one, so they have to splice and cut the factory harness. We're gonna remove it, install our T harness, and do an HKI Mini. So the bags are repaired now. Holes blocked off, reinforced. The woofer's been moved to the back. He now has 2/3 of his bag space instead of having the 8-inch woofer in the middle. We swapped the lids, so now we don't have to worry about the cone falling off and the 6' suspended midair. We use the kicker lids with this nice metal bracket to support the weight of the speaker. The bags are cut nice, so you can't see the cutout from the back. In the fairing, everything is nice and clean. So we've repaired the factory harnesses. We use RT harness, so now it's plug and play. Nice, clean, all the factory harnesses have been repaired. No more butt connectors. Now we can put her back together. Okay, so we ended up installing his Dakota digital gauges, repairing his factory wire harnesses, installing an NVS Audio T harness, HKI Mini DSP. We could have kept the Metro DSP in. The issue is, since it's not the Harley Davidson version, it's not waterproof, and I didn't want to take a chance of having him to come all the way back up because of water damage in the DSP. So we went with the HKI Mini DSP, which tucks neatly in the pocket. NVS Audio T harness, oxygen-free copper wiring for both amps. The amps are grounded at the battery, not in the fairing like previously. We kept his Diamond Audios in the fairing. He had the MP654s in the fairing. We did the Hertz 690 Neos in the lids. We swapped out the lids for the kicker lids because his Avant Black lids were damaged. We kept his Yellow Basket 8-inch mid-bass drivers. We repaired the bags and fiberglassed them closed, and we recut the 8s to the back of the bag to give him maximum storage space. And then we went ahead and RTA tuned the bike. The bike sounds phenomenal now. So check it out.
I got 100 guns, 100 clips. Nigga, I'm from New York, New York. I got a semi-automatic that spits next time if you talk, you talk. I got 100 guns, 100 clips. Nigga, I'm from New York, New York. I got a semi-automatic that spits next time if you talk, you talk. And I know them niggas is pussy, but not even Johnny. Your monologues getting tired. Now it's time to ride and print this. You ride, you no longer desire to take off them silly chains. Put back on your wire. I'm on fire. Holly dipped in octane. Let East Coast bang, let West Coast bang, and We're gonna bring the ghetto gospel to every hood possible. Pushing through in the sky blue, back with the God you now. Preferably the full pass, slugs flying at the speed of sound. Trying to catch the ears of niggas just running their mouths. I might get my Brooklyn niggas to run in your house. I don't really understand what the running's about, but we hunters, we take pride in airing our prey out, leaving them laid out dead and just for sport, cause we ain't playing up here in New York.
I got 100 guns and 100 clips. Nigga, I'm from New York, yeah, New York. And you can tell the way the homies spit. That nigga, I'm from New York, New York. I got 100 ways to make a grip. Yes, I'm from New York, New York. And you can tell I get real ignorant. This nigga, I'm from New York, New York. This is how we do. Nigga, I can see the coke in your nose. This ain't a movie, even he got his head blown on the globe. And I was just about to find God, but now that Mace is back, I think I'd much rather find a Menard. And everybody talking crazy how they AK sit, but we done disinvestigating and they ain't straight shit. Not me, I'm a truth homie. Got the industry shook like nah, nigga Joe gon' let him loose on me. True story, I'm bringing the team back. Even Roy Jones was forced to lean back. My nigga Dre said crime cook. Now we killing them hard. Niggas said I must have 5 points round book. Got bitches on top of the phantom. And the pinky got bling like the ring around Saturn. Cut coke tracks, niggas sing for that. And you already know the axis where the team be at.
I got 100 guns, 100 clips. Nigga, I'm from New York. New York, yeah, rough riding, be blocking shit. Nigga, fuck what you thought. You thought. You can't take shit for granted, cause life is too short. Too short, yeah, got 100 guns, 100 clips. Nigga, I'm from New York. This is how I swear it couldn't be sweeter. Life's a bitch, depending on how you treat her. You might get rich, it's guaranteed you gon' die. You might get missed for maybe 2 or 3 hours.
I got money, so that's a good enough reason. A lot of things I buy. I'm so high. I'm on point when I get from the kitchen. This is about a look in your eye. When I ride by, I don't care. Doing so straight to the top this year. Nigga, I'm so fly. I got money, so that's a good enough reason. About the things I buy. Banks is fresh off the gutter, too smooth as butter. Just take a load of pepper like 2 scoops of butter. Before I leave the crib, I tell my mother I love her. Grab the burner, but she ain't
Too hard, and maybe I could turn it loose.